She married her dad, bro. You're like, what? I mean, I did do a video in on this a while back when this became sort of a thing with Letitia James, but like, Ilhan Omar said, I married my brother. Letitia James says, hold my beer. I married my dad. No joke. Best I can figure is I was born out of wedlock, so I could talk a little bit of junk. Her mom and dad never married when she was, conceived into this world, which left so she married her dad. She got on the books, married to this dude. It was her dad, but it didn't know this because they had a different last name and they didn't do any kind of real background stuff, And in some countries, you could marry your dad, like in Pakistan and places like that, and Iran and all that. They do that. But anyhow, that's another video altogether. Let me show you what she did and how this implicates her and fortified her, like, criminality. And it's crazy, dude. She was like, okay, I'm going to start from the tippity top here and just bear with me on this. But Letitia James claims, how did Letitia James claim that she married her father in order to qualify her for a first loan involved into a lifetime of mortgage and bank fraud? One of them I read through here shows where she actually had, she did exactly what she claimed Donald Trump did. She bought an apartment complex and then falsified the amount of apartments that were in there. How they didn't check, I don't know, but she managed to skeet by this. The bank partially to blame because they didn't do their due diligence, but she claimed that this apartment complex only had one apartment, and then that made it where she didn't have to pay as much on her interest rates and helped to secure the loan. A lot of everything that she claimed Donald Trump did, she did, and then married her dad. So it began in the spring of 1983 when a 24-year-old Letitia James and her father, Robert James, posing as husband and wife, took a real estate loan for $30,300 from Kadilac Fund Ltd. Cadillac with a K. I got my Cadillac, bro. Shut up. By the way, this was for the purchase of a 2-story townhome in Queens. The loan document signed by both listed Robert James and Letitia James as Letitia as his wife. And in 3 separate places, there was no clerical error. So in other words, it was intentional that this happened. At the time, young Letitia likely lacked sufficient income or credit to qualify for a mortgage as a single woman. The fraudulent claim of marriage to her father allowed her to obtain financing that she otherwise couldn't have. And by the way, this act that meets the legal definition of mortgage fraud under the federal statutes. Yeah, and it's weird too, by the way. I'm not saying she was banging the dude, but, that's just, who does that? So this deception set a precedent for her. Once Letitia discovered that falsifying personal information could deliver tangible financial rewards without consequences, the act of misrepresentation for loans became a lifelong habit. Decades of mortgage misrepresentations followed, even after she became a high-profile Attorney General of New York State in 2019. James continued the same behavior pattern. In 2020, James purchased a property at 3121 Perone Avenue in Norfolk, Virginia, signing a document claiming it would be her primary or secondary residence rather than a rental property to secure a lower interest rate. The misrepresentation recently became part of the criminal indictment, by the way. This is the home that she's got that her criminal niece was living at, the one that was on probation for all kind of violent crimes and decided just not to go back, and has a bunch of kids that are grown, and one of them's got an OnlyFans account, and the other one's like a well-known gangster, and they all flashing cash money and smoking weed on camera. They're grown, and they live in there too. It's wild. The bank fraud carrying a potential 30-year prison sentence, by the way. This is what you do. So anyways, in 2021, James applied for a $200,000 line of credit so that she could get mortgage stuff from Citizens Bank onto her 5-unit apartment building in Brooklyn. But in the mortgage documents, James claimed it only had 1 apartment unit. Accordingly, by the way, James received a lower residential mortgage interest rate she was not entitled to, and to avoid higher commercial loan rate and much higher closing costs. So she did exactly what that Trump's missed, and that she did it. She did this shit. Anyway, so and in 2023, James bought a home at 604 Sterling Avenue, Virginia, per Sam. I'm sorry. So this was the one. My bad. Anyway, so she got a home with a bunch of gangsters living in it. Then so her per Sam Antar, Letitia qualified for a loan only after certifying an updated application that it would be her primary residence, even though she lived in Brooklyn. Letitia's father, participating in 1983, not only legitimized mortgage fraud in Letitia's mind, but also created a powerful model for a family network of teams. They teamed up together. Yeah. And bending the rules. And then that she made to purchase the home in order to provide a home for Shamika's kids. However, the kids were both adult felons. They are, with long rap sheets, including Nakia Monique Thompson, who was a wanted fugitive with an active arrest warrant. And by the way, this was in North Carolina that this bitch was wanting to be found in, and she didn't just never go back. And then to this day, Letitia James is harboring her fugitive niece in a category of crime for Letitia James's own rap sheet. Yeah, so you got an attorney general who's supposed to be, nobody's above the law. Nobody's above the law. No MFer is above the law, except for my niece. Yeah, it's okay. And her criminal children, they're okay too. That's fine. I know they're selling weed out of there, because I like to get a little bit. Letitia James, I like to get a little weed for my niece. And her son, oh my gosh, she got that good kush, that good dab. Letitia James took that dab. Anyways, yeah, so Letitia James married her dad and stuff. That's just so crazy. Who's like comes up with a scheme like that? This is like, I remember the movie The Fat Boys. They decided to become nurses so that they could take care of this old dude and grift off his money. That was pretty gnarly back in the 80s. But this right here, marrying your dad? Come on, man. Dude. And then it says, I'm going after Donald Trump's. Yeah, because he doing that. He bad. He's bad. That's crazy. I think that I don't, people would say, you have no business talking about this. And I'll be like, why? And they'd be like, because you're too male, too pale, and too stale. And I'm saying, well, that might be the case, but I'm saying it anyways. I remember this. If you watched any of my videos and been on this channel for a long time, I called this when this started up. Whenever she came after Trump and was like, yeah, I'm going to get Trump for mortgage fraud, and this was going forth in the courts and all that, and Engeran, he needs to be gone after next politically or legally. We need to see what's up with his closets of stuff. He's like 67 or 68 years old, and he's married to some 20-year-old chick. That doesn't. Let's just see where he was at a few years ago. Let's see where his heart was. Anyways, I called this. I said, hey, I wouldn't be surprised if Letitia James is the one that's actually committed mortgage fraud, considering she's also claimed many, many times how much she knows about more. I know about mortgage fraud. I'm good at this. I've been trained. I'm prepared. I came to class. I brought my own pencil. I got my own paper. And I was right. I nailed that 100%. Come to find out, wasn't long after, she's got mortgage fraud crap. This is typical. All right, guys, thank you for watching. Take it easy. I'm out.